What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Dawgs and Hawgs. We've got Russ Tanner here. I'm your host, Bobby Andrews, back inside again here at Wire Park. Russ, we got a lot to talk about. A lot lined up on this Wednesday after New Year's. Happy New Year's,
Happy
by
New
the
Year.
way. This
Yeah,
is the first show
Happy New
since
Year. Happy New Year's.
New Year, right?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it.
Okay. Well, this is the first show of the new year. Very happy to be here. Question: do you have any New Year's resolutions?
New Year's resolutions. So
Yeah.
I don't believe in New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
Because I think it just, I don't know. People, I think New Year's resolution is like one of the original reasons for Instagram. People just post something so that people can say, look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't make New Year's resolutions. I got some goals. I lost some weight this past year.
There you go.
Want to keep going on that. And some things that Tanners want to accomplish. But yeah, no resolutions. What about you?
We're trying I'm going on vacation here in about 3 or so months and got a trip to Greece and Italy planned with my family.
Dang.
So got to cut some weight. I ran a half marathon this past year. That was kind of my New Year's resolution. So we're working on just kind of cutting some weight, getting fit, getting in the gym, creating new habits, kind of a 70. You've heard of 75 hard?
Yeah.
Yeah. A 75 hard-ish is what we're calling it because it's not
Who is we?
me.
Okay.
I refer to myself as we.
I like that.
So, yeah. You know,
well, we can talk about that. I've got
Yeah.
a lot of things. I've got a lot of things I'm interested in. By the way, I love Georgia football, but I'm very interested in diet and trying to be fitter and healthier. And when you get to be 41, man, you got multiple insurance policies and a 401k. You got to focus on those things so you can keep talking about Georgia football for a long, long time.
That's right. That's right. And we are talking about Georgia football today on Dawgs and Hawgs as usual. We've got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, well, obviously, thank you, fans, for tuning in. Leave comments down below. Ask us some questions here. Where we've got a lot to talk about, but a lot of time to fill as well. We're on here for an hour, so please leave us comments. Ask us questions. We'll get to them as soon as we see them pop up. Thank you all for tuning in. And
we're here with our diehards now. By the way,
yeah,
the people who are tuning in now. There ain't even a football game coming on this weekend.
That's
we
right.
got a lot to talk about, fortunately, with the 24-hour news cycle, with the transfer portal, with bowl games, college football playoff expansion, all these things. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, things on the list. But our diehards are the ones listed right now. So we appreciate you guys checking us out.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. And no comments, no commenting about me not being out in the cold today. No wuss comment from you so far. So
you would not
feeling good. Feeling good right now.
You might better just get on into the topics of the night.
Anyways, I just had to throw that one out there. No, nothing from Russell today. Anyways, we'll talk about some UGA football. Russ, we have, I believe it is now 11 guys who have declared. Well, yeah, 11. Cedric Van Pran declared today. I'm pretty sure that's 11 guys who are going to the NFL draft.
Right.
That is kind of topic number one of conversation today. Of course, we'll get into the Orange Bowl a little bit, the absolute trouncing of Florida State. But, I mean, the impact – we can go down the list. Marcus Rosemead, Jack Saint, Cedric Van Pran, Javon Bullard, Kamari Lassiter. The list goes on and on and on. Running back, Kendall Milton, Dejon Edwards, Ladd McConkey, and, of course, Brock Bowers announced last night that he is officially heading to the NFL draft. Just give me your opinion, your insight on how this is going to impact the University of Georgia next season.
Yeah. Well, it's enormous losses. Some of the guys you're talking about are some of the absolute dudes from this team, especially when you start talking about Cedric Van Pran Granger. You start talking about Marcus Rosemead Jackson. You start talking about Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey. These are the guys who have been the cornerstones for this run that Georgia's been over the last 3 years. Brock Bowers, 3-time All-American. There's been 3 of those in history. Cedric Van Pran Granger in the middle. He's been the most stable force on this football team during the last 4 or 5 years. It's a little bit confusing this year when you say all these guys are declaring for the draft because of the COVID stuff. It's the natural progression of where it's at. It's time to move on. I can remember back when I was going my 5th year, it was time to move on. You can only stay over here so long and keep on the grind. Those guys get paid now, so maybe it makes it a little bit different.
Yeah.
But they're moving on. But their impact on the field is going to be huge, especially you start talking about Brock and Ladd, the explosive guys out there. But that part can typically be recruited back. You can get players, you can get talent. But I think that the leadership of the teams, kind of the personality those teams take on, that's the thing that is always up in the air when you have some of your leaders move on and graduate, go to the NFL, whatever it may be. The guys who kind of set the tone for the locker room, who when things suck during the season are the ones who pull them together. When things are too high, they pull them back low. When they're too low, they jack them back up. And I mean, you're losing the guys that did that for you. They're your guys who shaped the locker room. And I think Kirby has probably done as good of a job as anybody in college football shaping the locker room. You talk about that Florida State blowout. It's one of the reasons why. But it's because of the type of guys he's gotten in. He hadn't just brought in turds that are fast. He's brought in high character guys and that say the right things, do the right things. Lad McConkey was like the all-state, good hands guy of the year, or
Yeah.
whatever it was. Hopefully, I'm not giving all-state a shout out that they don't deserve, but one of those big national awards like that.
Right.
So, I mean, I think the biggest loss for Georgia is just when it comes to kind of the character of the team. The nature of college football, guys come, guys go, they go to the NFL. You'll have talent coming back as long as you're University of Georgia and Kirby's here. But what's the character of that team? That's what we don't know yet.
Yeah. That's certainly a good question to ask, and one that I'm sure fans are going to be asking for a long time, because those senior guys that 50 win class, which we'll get into later, is now gone, and that's 11 guys who were starters for this team. Half of the starters
Yeah.
are gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely something that we'll see how it progresses this upcoming year. Who's going to step up? Who these new leaders are going to be? Running backs coming in. We got Trevor Etienne, obviously. So
Baller.
Yep. A lot of guys who are going to be transferring in, and some guys who have opportunities to step up. I feel like guys who transferred in last year who didn't necessarily. You can't really come in and transfer in and be an immediate voice of the team because you haven't been here long enough.
Right.
So, guys like Ra Thomas or, Dominic Lovett, some of those guys, it'll be interesting to see how they
Bullard's leaving, right? Do you have the list?
Yes. I have the full list.
What did Lassiter end up saying? I get them confused.
Kamari and Javon Bullard
are both
gone. Tyke Smith is gone. Zion Logue, Marcus Rosemary Jackson, Cedric Van Pran, the other names. Amarius Mims, of course, as well.
Well, we knew he was leaving.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's interesting when you look at that, because you're losing a lot of talent when you talk about
a lot of talent.
Javon Bullard and Kamari Lassiter leaving on the defense.
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest losses. But you got Malachi Starks coming back.
And I don't know if you've seen these oh my gosh, what is his name? The not KJ Bolden, the new
Ellis Robinson.
Ellis Robinson.
Yeah.
Coming in. Oh my gosh.
He's a dude.
He is a dude. He is a dude. It's unbelievable. So I think that KJ Bolden and Ellis Robinson will have great opportunities to start. Oh, they'll play for sure.
But then you see David Daniel coming back. Not David Daniel. Daniel Harris coming back, who was the guy who said he was going to the portal and came back. Julian Humphreys today said he's coming back.
Yep.
So you've got some pieces coming back. They love Jonell Aguero, number 8.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the guys when they said they talked about in the past, like some of these top safeties Georgia lost, Caleb Downs, some of those cats that went to Bama. They said, man, all that happens, I came in and saw Jonell Aguero practicing the side to leave. So you got talent there, but you're losing some top end guys out of the program. So it's going to be interesting. On offense, the offensive line next year has got to be reshaped almost totally. It's huge. Our buddy Tate Ratledge just coming back. I mean, that's huge. I mean, not figuratively and literally, coming back. Ernest Green being a second-year starter at left tackle goes a long way for you too. But after that, there's a lot of question marks. Dylan Fairchild ended up playing well. Michael Morris played well. I guess Truss is back for one more year. But you've got pieces that have had to move around. You got to find that center. You got to find the guy who's the absolute dog for your group. And it hasn't been a question. Like Cedric Van Pran Granger has been the alpha.
Yeah.
Without doubt. From the outside looking in. Maybe guys are on the line in the locker room. They may say, y'all don't know your head from a hole in the ground. But from the outside looking in, he's been the guy.
Yep.
And from everything you hear, he's been the guy. So, Carson Beck's coming back. The offense is going to be really good. Everybody that want to fire our offense coordinator this year, Michael Bobo, I think they've been proven wrong now. I mean, he's really good. So with Bobo coming back, Carson Beck coming back another year, with all the weapons he has around, especially from a skill position standpoint, they're going to be really good as long as the offensive line is good again. Yep. You think they're going to be, but you don't know. They've got to play together.
Yeah, that's going to be a big question. I mean, Monroe Freeling got some reps.
PT. Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see how this offensive line shakes out, because that was something that I asked you last week on the show was, how does Georgia kind of replenish offensive line? You said that's one of the hardest things to do is to transfer from high school ball to college ball and getting up to speed. And I mean, we don't need to rehash it, but like I said last week, Monroe Freeland, didn't have a phenomenal first, performance whenever he needed to fill in, but that's because the
He's
adjustment
a
is
he's a
so hard.
baby.
Yeah,
He's a puppy.
yeah.
I mean, he's an absolute puppy. Now he's an enormous puppy. He's like a Great
Did you see him
Dane.
doing the yoga, the video of
No,
him? Okay. Well, he was leading I think it was warm up before the Orange Bowl. I think it was practice. He was leading yoga warm ups, and so all the offensive linemen were getting their yoga. Apparently, his mom's, I think, a yoga instructor or something
really.
like that. So, yeah, I mean,
I can't
correct
talk.
me if
I
I'm
can't
wrong,
talk much about yoga. I don't know.
but
I don't know much about the yoga situation
no,
going on.
but that's got to be helpful for a big offensive lineman. You got to think,
It makes you the more bendy you are, the better,
yeah,
right?
more limber.
Flexible hips are one of the keys to offensive linemen.
Yeah,
You got to be able to get your butt low and move. If you can't bend, and there's been plenty of guys that are beautiful specimens of offensive linemen, but they can't bend, they can't get low, they can't go side to side, and they can't play.
yeah,
So, but it's virtually impossible to come as a true freshman and to adjust to the size and the speed of the defensive lines that you see in big boy college football.
yep.
It's just so hard. There's nothing people love. I've heard buddies, and it's usually golf buddies or baseball buddies say something like, "Nothing harder than birdieing a par five on so and so hole in sports. Nothing harder than hitting a 102-mile-an-hour fastball in the major leagues. There's nothing harder than doing that. Go try to block Dallas Turner for Alabama. Go try to block Jalen Carter
Yeah.
that played for Georgia.
Mhm.
Go try to block some of those cats. I mean, they're the biggest, strongest men in the world as far as just explosive athletes. And you're asking freshmen to come in and be able to physically stop. You're going from blocking 16, 17, 18-year-old boys who my granddad used to look at me and say, "You trying to grow a beard, boy? You can just rub some milk in there and let the cat lick that off." Like, you're going against guys that still are like that.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you got guys that know the difference in an HMO and a PPO. They're grown men that you're trying to block. And it's huge. It's a huge difference. So, yeah, I think one of the biggest question marks for Georgia next year, other than the defense, because the defense had some questions this year. What's the scheme going to look like? Who's going to be the players that step up for Kamari Lash and Javon Bullard specifically leaving? Jameis Loomis Johnson was kind of the leader of that group this year as far as vocally. He's gone now. What's the defense going to look like? But after that, it's the offensive line.
Yeah.
Like, who's it going to be?
Yeah.
So,
That's speaking of that, we get with this question from Todd Frost. He said, "How will our D line look next year?" I know Michael doesn't. He's kind of an edge guy, so Michael. That's good news that he's coming back. He had a
yeah.
great game in the Orange Bowl. But I mean, what do you think the D line's going to look like next year? Do you have any idea?
Well, I mean, there's still a few guys who I think they're waiting to hear from, like Nazir Stackhouse, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? I think McClendon is coming back, I believe. I think Zion Logue is one who's leaving.
Yes, he is.
So, this year, and I said at the beginning of the year, there'd be some cats on that defense line that were first round picks. Nobody on that defense line played like a first round pick this year.
Right.
Whether it be some of the scheme that happened, whether it be some of the explosiveness that we're used to seeing, it wasn't a dominant group this year. Now, when you look at kind of where the most talent seems to be, the most talented guys on that defensive line, as far as the interior guys specifically, seem to be the younger guys, the Christian Millers, the Jordan Davises, those guys. Those are the guys. Jordan Hall. Sorry,
Yeah. No, you're good. But yeah, I was going to say Jordan Hall.
Yeah, those are the guys that you're expecting to see turn the corner and really step up in that second year of what they're doing.
Yeah,
because they're bigger, faster, stronger. They have a better understanding of what's happening. That mental side of college football is tough. I mean, the physical transition is hard. Learning to block the grown man like we just talked about.
Yeah.
But the mental side of having to adjust to things so quickly that doesn't happen in high school. So you'll see guys like that take big steps. So I'm hoping that they're the guys we need. And then, we've got to find some edge pressure next year. We didn't have a lot of that. We played a lot of 3-man fronts this year. And I think that was because of personnel some. I think it's we might not have had the guys.
Yeah.
We might not have had the talented guys that played that edge rush and stuff. But I think you'll see Georgia a little bit more of a 4-man front, a little bit more traditional as far as rushing those guys from the outside. And I think they're going to have to do it from a recruiting standpoint because I bet you that's being used against Kirby and them. Why does a Marvin Jones leave? Why does some of those you don't get some of those guys like that? Those true outside linebacker, defensive end, pass rushing specialist guys.
Right.
It's being recruited. Georgia's being recruited against with it some. So I think it's a false narrative. I think Georgia does plenty of it, but I think you'll see a little different scheme. You'll see scheme tweaks next year based on the personnel that Georgia has.
Yeah. I heard that a lot of like why Michael May transfers because he didn't necessarily fit with Georgia's scheme, and he
Yeah.
wanted to see. That was one of the reasons why I guess he didn't announce before the Orange Bowl if he was going to transfer or not, because he wanted to see how he'd be utilized in the Orange Bowl, and I mean, played great. So
Yeah, he played great.
yeah.
So who knows as far as what the actual who's transferring and who's not is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit right now. It's like all these coaches every year who are getting interviewed for a head coaching job. They just want to raise. In the world of NIL now, there's going to be some guys that said they're going in the portal just because they want to raise. I thought it was pretty funny. A lot of guys end up announcing they were going in the portal after they went home for Christmas. You know good and well they're talking to their uncle, their cousin, some family members. Like, man, they're paying you how much? I mean, you need to go in the portal and see what happens. So you need to get paid. So you had several guys come back from the family break, and all of a sudden they had an uncle in their ear telling them, "Why are you not going in the portal and getting paid too?" So, and it probably works something like that. But then, I don't know. I think the portal's interesting. I think you got a lot of guys at Georgia too who ended up going in the portal. They didn't have a choice, by the way. People think that it's all the players deciding to go in the portal. It's not always the players deciding to go in the portal. There are people that are encouraged to go in the portal. There's people whose scholarships ran out, by the way. Your scholarship is a 4-year agreement typically. We got people that went into the portal as 4-year guys. They were good players, part of the team. It's time to move on. That's okay. So there's a lot of scenarios and reasons people go in the portal, and we don't know them from the outside looking in. So I forgot what that question started me at. I got rambling on that, but
honestly, I don't even remember either.
D line. What's the D line look like next year? and all of a sudden, I'm talking about specialists in the portal. So yeah, but but it's a good question. I think the lines of scrimmage, the offensive line next year is going to be the biggest question for Georgia. Like, who's going to be the guys? How do they gel? How do they learn to play together?
Yeah.
And the defense line has questions to answer as far as can they be dominant again? Because we got used to being dominant, by the way, under Kirby. We got used to being dominant for 3 or 4 years, and we weren't this year.
I mean, when you look back, you see Trayvon Walker, you see, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. You see all these guys, and Jordan Davis wasn't, he didn't rush the passer, but Trayvon Walker and Jalen Carter, like those guys got to the quarterback. And like you said, we didn't have a ton of that this year as we had in past years. So when you look at that talent, you're expecting that year after year, and you may not get that year after year because that's generational talent with a number 1 overall pick in Trayvon Walker and a top 10 pick in Jalen Carter,
and a better player in Jalen Carter.
Yeah. It's something, maybe expectations. Maybe that's an expectation thing based on us. But it's certainly something to keep your eye on, the defensive line. But I think that Georgia overall is doing pretty good right now. They just,
yeah, they're doing pretty good.
Well, they just rolled Florida State.
They come off the greatest 3-year run in the history of college football, arguably.
Yeah. Just rolled Florida State in the Orange Bowl, 63-3. I mean, Russ, let me read these. Let me read some of these accomplishments off that Georgia was able to accomplish in this game.
Okay.
Georgia's 27th consecutive bowl game. No other program has more in a row. 39-point lead at half was the most in Orange Bowl history.
Golly.
Georgia scored touchdowns on 9 straight drives, and they punted once.
I've never heard of that. And I've never heard of that, by the way. Don't leave those stats because I want to throw in some right there. To me, what was one of the craziest stats this entire year that didn't get talked about? Brett Thorson did not give up a single punt return yard. All year long. Not 1 yard of punt returns all year long. So that Aussie cat is really good.
That's
get back to your stats. Like this.
673 total yards, set a school record. 372 of those were rushing yards, 301 passing yards.
Jeez.
That's unbelievable.
Jeez. You say a school record or a bowl record?
School record.
Jeez.
Yeah. In an Orange Bowl against a 5th-ranked Florida State team. Now, people are going to, bellyache and moan and complain about, Florida State, they didn't have their starters out there. Yeah, well, neither did Georgia. So, anyways, we'll get to that here in a minute. And this also, like I mentioned earlier in the show, and plenty of other people have mentioned, this marked Georgia's 50th win for Georgia's senior class, the winningest class in school history. So this one game, I mean, was just unbelievable. And it got pretty boring. I'm not going to lie.
Very boring. Yeah.
It got pretty boring to the point where I was like, I was almost mad. I was like, we're playing like this
It was
against the Florida State
right.
team. We're a top 4 team. It's like we shouldn't
Yeah.
even be here. And yeah. Anyways,
Well,
what are your
we
thoughts on
didn't.
the game?
Well, we did not deserve to be in the playoff. Bama beat us.
Yeah.
We did not play good against Bama. Bama played out of their mind. Any other week of the season, I think we beat Bama. And I think Vegas tells you now the odds have come out and shown that Georgia gets any matchup in the country right now as a favorite,
Yeah.
Michigan included.
Yeah.
And Michigan played great against Alabama, by the way. I was impressed by Michigan. I haven't said that. And I also give Michigan credit for uniting the country, like nobody else has in a long time. Like everybody hates Michigan. So,
I was like, what do you mean by uniting the country?
Everybody hates Michigan.
Yeah.
Now. The thoughts on the game. I know Roddy, and if Roddy's on here, he'd be arguing with me right now because he was talking about last week that well, Georgia's got all these players missing too.
Yeah.
We did have as many players missing as they did. I get it. And this, and it sounds like I'm knocking Georgia when I say this, but I'm not. It's actually a testament to the strength of this program and the depth that Georgia has built. So Georgia, let's say there were 20 guys. I think it was like 21, 22 actually. Let's just use 20 for easy math here. Let's say both teams were missing 20 guys. Florida State, out of those 20 guys, they had 12 or 15 starters out, like frontline guys for them. And the drop off from their frontline starters to the guy behind them was immense.
Yep.
Immense.
Yes.
I mean, it was a huge gap that they executed in the transfer portal really well the last few years, and they brought in some top end talent. But they haven't developed a program yet from the bottom up. And I think they're going to, by the way. That Norvell guy seems like a good coach.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem super likable for whatever reason, but it seems like a great coach. Georgia has depth. So out of the 20 guys Georgia had not playing the game, there were only like 4 or 5 starters. Mims, Brock.
Let's see who else. I can't even think of them off the top of my head.
I mean, Ladd for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
But really, that was it.
Yeah.
You talk about maybe Marvin Jones was the guy that played a lot this year, but not really. So you only lost 3 or 4 starters for Georgia out of the guys not playing the game. But then the Georgia fans like to say, well, in the second half we put our backups in and still smooch it. We did, and this is where the compliment for Georgia comes in. Georgia now has depth, has the depth of a roster that hasn't been seen in college football in a long, long time. Yeah. The drop off from Florida State. Florida State has starters, and then they have backups. So it's like that, right?
Yeah.
Georgia has starters, and they have backups. So Georgia's gap is like this between starters and backups. Mm-hmm. Florida State is like this.
Right.
So for Florida State to be without 10, 12, 15 guys, whatever it was, that was their frontline guys. Now, do I think they could have played with Georgia? Absolutely not. I think Georgia would have smoked them, but it's probably more like 42-14.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. So that's a huge compliment to Kirby Smart and that staff over there because they have brought in so much talent, which is also why you see all these guys that are transferred. We talked about that last week. So you got 3, 4, and 5-star guys transferring out from Georgia because they're having to compete against other 3, 4, and 5-star guys, and everybody ain't built for that.
Yeah.
Some guys just don't want it. They don't want that fight, and they leave. That's okay.
Yeah. I saw Norvell. You brought up Mike Norvell. I saw they posted his post game.
I didn't see it. What did he say?
You see that?
I didn't see it.
It was a good speech. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if any of the fans, could chime in with their thoughts on Mike Norvell's post game speech, but he apologized to his team. He's like, I'm sorry for this because this is not like it.
Yeah.
I think he felt like he let the team down a little bit, and I don't necessarily think it's his fault. I don't know. I think he was apologizing to the team for the guys who kind of opted out of like, I'm sorry that this happened to all the guys who worked hard to be here, who showed up, who played. I'm sorry this happened to you guys.
It wasn't fun.
No, not at all.
Nothing about it. Wasn't fun for Georgia. The only fun part of the second half is watching Will Muschamp do this. What does that mean? Do you know what that means?
First down. It's a first down.
Well, I know what that means. What's that mean when you do like?
I don't know.
I heard somebody say they got slimed. I guess that's
I think it's.
You're fresh out of college. Like you should literally be our cultural guy.
I think it's a gang sign. So I think you gotta pump the brakes on.
So don't do that again. That's what you're telling me.
Probably not, but it's forever in the digital and digital footprint on YouTube. So,
If there's any of our gang members out here in Oconee County watching, no disrespect.
yeah. Um, yeah, but that was kind of fun to see. I mean, yeah, let's look at some comments
Yeah,
here.
give me some comments. I
Yeah.
don't have my glasses tonight, and I'm far away from the screen.
Yeah.
I'll let you do the setup for our little show in here before I got in here. So,
Let's see. NFL
uh,
combine slash
yeah.
draft. What percentage of dudes hire a personal trainer to prep? You know
So,
any idea?
well, all right. That's a hard question to answer because are you talking about guys that are truly expecting to go in the draft? Are you talking about guys that are projected to be, top 4 or 5 round picks? Or are you talking about all draft eligible seniors? Because there's a ton of draft eligible seniors that don't go to the NFL.
Yeah.
I was a guy who I was an undrafted free agent, right? From that '05 team. In 2006, I was an undrafted free agent. So I had a shot. I mean, I had a chance to go and play NFL football. I wasn't going to be a high draft pick. I had hopes I was going to be a fifth, sixth, or seventh round pick. So I didn't have any money. Typically the guys that hire agents have, I'm sorry, that hire trainers have agents that are fronting them the money for trainers. So I was fortunate enough at Georgia, our strength and conditioning staff Coach Dave Van Hallinger was the man, helped a ton. And then I worked out with a guy named Clay Walker, who was one of our strength and conditioning coaches at Georgia. And Clay did a great job. He had 2 or 3 guys like me that wanted to give it a shot, but couldn't hire your top end people. But as far as guys that are projected to be, let's say, a top 4 or 5 round draft pick, just about all of them hire somebody. Either it's a personal trainer or they'll go to I don't know the word, like camp.
Yeah, I was
almost
gonna
like
call
almost like boarding school
right.
where you go and you work out with a bunch of other kind of group training stuff.
Yeah.
So more and more now they do it because there's too much money on the line for them not to. So yeah, I mean they're all working out with somebody,
Yeah.
somebody doing it. But that's a good question.
Yeah.
Hester, I think it was.
It was yeah, Trent Hester.
Got it.
Kind of back to some FSU stuff here. Oh, somebody mentioned we'll read this and then we'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
But top team due to injury risk, what's keeping players in
Mhm.
the future? Players from opting out in the playoffs. Health is more important than 3 extra games.
So I think this is if you look at what Kirby said in his post game press conference, I thought it was surprising when he said, college football is a problem that needs to be fixed. And I think this question, Johnny Bailey, rather his question, is kind of hitting on what Kirby was talking about. Like they've got to fix it. College football's got to decide what they want
Yeah.
with it. And um, I heard another podcast I was listening to was Kirby was kind of like back at the dining room table talking about politics, where everybody's getting message. Somebody's got to fix something.
Mhm.
But I don't know who it is or what they're going to do about it. So that's the hard thing now.
Yeah.
So college football does have to fix it. Fortunately, right now, the allure of being in those high end playoff type games is enough to keep those top guys in. But they're probably going to have to end up financially incentivizing those guys at some point to play, paying guys to play in those games, tying something to if you win, your team gets compensated for it to make it go that way. College football is not broken right now. People like to say it's over. College football is dead. It's not dead.
Not at
It's
all.
not. It's not close to dead. But it's going through a huge transition right now that
Yep.
it's not going to look the same in 5 years. They've got to figure out a way to fix it.
Yep.
I mean, you talk about Jim Harbaugh right now. Cheating aside, like Jim Harbaugh's about to go to the NFL.
You really think so?
Yeah, and he's going to the NFL because he is tired of dealing with what you have to do to be a college coach now.
Oh my gosh. The level between a college coach, the amount of work that you have to do as a college coach compared to an NFL coach is like you're literally like their father at while they're at school, while they're at college. And in the NFL, it's like you're on your own to get to practice, to get to whatever.
Yep.
Like Kirby has a schedule for
Yeah.
every little thing that they do.
Yep.
And it's
just a different pace of life.
It's
And guys can't do it. I mean,
no.
I don't know I don't know how old Kirby is. 45, 46, 47, something like that. I mean, I don't see how you can coach into his 60s. I mean, he's making so much. Those guys are making so much money. I'm using Kirby because he's closest to it since
Yeah.
the Dogs Center podcast. But those guys are making so much money, and the pressure's so tough, so high. The Sabans of the world coaching in their 70s, and Joe Paterno, Bobby Bowden that coach way on up there past that. Like, I think those days are done unless they change unless they change where it's at. So I think that money is one thing that's going to keep those guys from opting out of the playoffs. To answer that last question, but I think as the NIL stuff kind of fixes itself the next few years, that you know,
Yeah.
I think that part take care of itself.
I've seen a couple of takes on like Twitter and stuff like that about how they need to make the transfer portal open after bowl games or the
Right.
national championship, stuff like that.
Right.
Someone even brought up on some podcast about making bowl games the beginning of the next season.
Yeah.
That makes 0 sense
That's
to me at
dumb.
all.
Sorry, that's
Because
dumb.
why in the world would guys who guys who played that season and let's say they transfer out or they, that they wouldn't play in the bowl game that they
No.
worked hard to be it wouldn't make bowl games any more meaningful.
No, that's
I don't
dumb. We
think.
can get rid.
So,
We can get rid of that idea.
yeah.
Whichever y'all in the comments, nobody, none of our listeners said
No,
that.
nobody in
Yeah,
these comments, but
that's not going to happen.
yeah,
But I don't know. I'm interested to see the playoffs next year are going to make everything feel very different. It's going to make everything feel very different.
yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean, I think you got to I think you've got to financially incentivize those guys to play.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm okay with that, by the way.
Tramel Boyd said we're forgetting Jamon Dumas Johnson and Smile Munden
Yep.
as the starters that were out.
Yeah, that's right.
Against,
And Dumas Johnson, I mean, yeah, he was started out, but he got. I struggle to talk negative about any player on this thing because I respect the battle those guys go through. But he got Wally pipped a little bit this year. He got. Do you know what that means?
no, I
Are
was
you
just gonna nod my head and say, "Yep."
You know about Wally Pipp?
No,
He was a dude that was injured. Some who we I don't know who of our guests are listening tonight. Daryl Huckabee usually chimes in. He would know who Wally Pipp is to explain to you because I don't know. I'm now going down a rabbit hole making fun of you. I don't fully know the answer to, but it was this guy that got injured, and when he was injured, his backup quarterback's like Johnny Unitas or somebody came in for him and never looked back. So like Drew Bledsoe got Wally pipped.
okay,
He was the man for the New England Patriots.
yeah,
He
yeah,
got hurt. Tom Brady came in,
yeah,
and you never heard from him again because a better player started playing.
right,
That happened a little bit with Dumas Johnson this year. Again, no
yeah,
disrespect to him. CJ Allen's a baller.
yeah,
He's a dude. And then, but yeah, Smile Money was a guy that was out
yeah.
due to injury. But yeah,
Let's see what else we got here. We got. Can you tell me Florida State's second team isn't as good as UAB? They put more points on Georgia than FSU. I'm also pretty sure UT Martin did as well.
it don't work like that.
Or UT Martin put up less points. Or we put up less points against UT Martin than we did against Florida State. I saw all different types of stuff
Momentum is a son of a biscuit.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to explain momentum. It doesn't that whole game about what you talk about there, and it's fun to play that game about. Well, look at this team scored this many points. This team beat that team. If you go about this team beat that team, then at some point UAB would have been the national champions this year because they beat somebody to beat somebody to beat somebody to beat somebody.
Right.
It just doesn't work like that. I mean, Florida State, they were not mentally ready for that football game. They had guys opting out, frontline guys, talented players, really good football players. Keon Coleman, Jared Verse. That big white boy that played defensive tackle. I can't remember his name, number 55. Then Jordan Travis was out. They had hurt guys, opting out guys that made a huge difference, but they weren't ready. They were not mentally prepared for the game, and they got their absolute butt spanked by a team in Georgia that wanted to be there.
Yeah, and they wanted to be there because their why was to get that senior class their 50th win,
which was huge. My senior class, when we graduated, we were the winningest class in Georgia football history as far as number of wins. We have 44 wins. And we wore that as a badge of honor for a long time.
Yeah.
Kirby's wiping the record books for everybody now, by the way. Like they're taking everybody else out of the records. But yeah, it's unbelievable. Those guys won 50 games in their 4 years. So a lot of respect for them.
Yeah. We got this question from Todd Frost again.
Okay.
Will the Dogs end up at number 3 or number 4 after the championship game? I'm sure it matters. Good coaching bonuses in next year's ranking.
What if you had food bonuses for your coaches? That would be Todd, you might be onto something there. Like we take food bonuses, by the way. We have not had any paid sponsorships here yet, but if somebody wants to start feeding us, we would take that.
I'll take a free dinner.
I'll make myself the sponsor. I'm in the mortgage business. AthensLender.com, BOE Classic Lending Group, bringing this show to you tonight. Okay. Yes. I don't think there's any question Georgia ends up number 3, number 4 in there. I don't know if they'll jump Bama, but just because Bama beat them head to head, but Bama's a 2-loss team now. Georgia's a 1-loss team that was number 1 for 11 of the 12 weeks of the football season, whatever it was, 13 or 14 weeks of the football season. and then absolutely trounced the Florida State team. They embarrassed them in every which way but loose. I know it sounds like I'm a Florida State apologist here, I'm not, but at the end of the day, they were still an undefeated team, a good football team, and they got absolutely blasted in historic, boring fashion.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so but yeah, I think Georgia ends up as the number 3 or 14. I mean, I think they'll probably jump Bama in most of the AP stuff, and they'll probably jump Texas.
Yeah. I forget what I saw. I don't know if it was I can't remember what it was. I think there's some way somebody came up with this funny scenario on Twitter. Of course, it's on Twitter or X, excuse me, about how Georgia can still technically win the national championship if Michigan wins, and they have to vacate it.
Yeah,
And
my
then,
wife, my wife, my wife is firmly down that road.
yeah,
By the way,
yeah,
she also is very convinced we didn't land on the moon. So you can't believe all the conspiracies.
yeah.
She's probably watching. It's not gonna be good. Scratch that part. I'm not sure if we land on the moon either. By the way, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. By the way, did you see? What's the quarterback's name? JJ McCarthy today.
Yeah.
Did you see what he's talking about today?
No, I didn't see it.
He literally. I'm gonna pull it up for you. I know this is not great. This is not great.
Host etiquette.
Host etiquette. Since you're not pulling up on the screen here, but
Yeah, we don't have Roddy behind the scenes today.
I know
so
it.
Roddy's
Messing us up. Y'all blame Roddy.
Anyways, while you're doing that, we had this comment about from Charles Adams. Your Wally Pipp story was wacko. Pipp was Yankee first baseman who lost his job to Lou Gehrig after he was injured.
I wasn't that far off. I didn't go. I didn't go down the set. Just I said Johnny Unitas doesn't mean anything. Jeez.
Yeah.
I said for the record I wasn't sure exactly what happened, but at least somebody is fact checking me.
Speaking of baseball, I'm wearing a. I don't know if anybody has any.
King Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right.
I know you're not a huge baseball fan, are you?
I like baseball. I don't love baseball. Yeah. It's a little slow for me. Wally Pipp.
Anyways, JJ McCarthy,
I don't care
what you
about
got?
Wally Pipp. All right, JJ McCarthy. I do care about Wally Pipp. That's why we asked him to say it. It's hard to do live shows, by the way, and get your facts straight.
It is. Trust me.
They don't know about it. All right. JJ McCarthy. His quote today was he said about 80% of teams in college football steal signs. We actually had to adapt in 2019, 2020 because Ohio State was stealing our signs, which is legal. We had to get up to the level they were at and make it an even playing field.
So
it ain't gonna work on there.
It's close enough.
I mean, it's crazy, man. So I mean, he literally, JJ McCarthy,
is out here admitting
saying,
it blatantly. It's obvious he's admitting to
he is. We had to adapt in 1920. Ohio State was stealing our signs, which is legal. We had to get up to the level they were at and make it an even playing field.
Yeah.
He's literally admitting to cheating.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure exactly the etiquette of cheating. Like, what happens when you go to cheating class? Because Michigan obviously has cheating class that they got really good at.
Yeah.
But at some point, you got to have somebody back there saying, this is like Fight Club. We don't talk about cheating. We lie and deny.
Yeah. Like Coach Rick
That's
said.
what Coach Rick said. Yeah. Lie and deny. That's what he would have done with Todd Gurley's situation.
Yep.
Coach is lying right there. He wouldn't have lied to him. He probably would have, but
we'll get to some more questions here in a minute. But let's get back to the Florida State here. We got a couple more things just to talk about with this Florida State game or the Orange Bowl.
Yep.
Does this? Let me start here. We already kind of talked about this a little bit, but you mentioned the gap between our backups and Florida State's backups, right?
Yes.
I mean, is our scout team better than their backups? Like, I mean, you saw guys coming in fourth, third and fourth strings.
Yeah.
Gunnar Stockton was led.
Gunnar Stockton looked good, by the way.
And really mobile. He looked.
I like Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah. So I mean, you just look at it. The backups and the scout team. And I mean, you mentioned Will Muschamp's son, Jackson Muschamp, getting that first down. And these guys coming in and playing usually don't get a ton of playing time. Is our scout team better than Florida State's backups?
Yes. But I mean, yes, because the Georgia scout team is still 4-star kids
Yeah.
when it comes to high school recruiting and recruiting and everything. But it's one of the best metrics we have of measuring talent on a roster. Since we don't get to go to practice and
I was
see
about to say
everybody
everything's
practicing,
so hush hush with
right?
college football. So
So I'm saying, as
yeah,
far as the available metrics to us, it's one of the best ones we have.
yeah,
So yes, I mean Georgia is highly competitive. Just because you're on the scout team at Georgia, by the way, you're not a blocking dummy who's just sitting there just taking shots to the jaw all day long while the champ practices uppercut to try to knock you out.
yeah,
I mean, they're trying to win positions. They're trying to win playing time. They're trying to get on the field and beat the guy in front of them. That's the mentality that's been bred into every one of those cats over there. That's why Georgia's been so good for these last couple of years.
yeah,
So yeah, Georgia scout team is better than Florida State second.
yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Another crazy stat that I neglected to mention
What
earlier.
my what
It's
my what my wife say? You better click on that
is
one.
she up here?
Yeah, on the bottom. See right there.
Yeah, she is. Michigan should be stripped if they win because they're cheaters. Let's not get into the fake news. That's funny. That is
I
funny.
got a good one, son. I love that woman.
Oh man, yeah. So 11 players attempted a rush for Georgia, and
Yeah,
11 players had receptions in a game.
it's crazy.
It's insane.
That may be the most. That may be the wildest stat you've talked about tonight.
Yeah, 11 players attempted a rush, and that
Mhm.
includes. I'm assuming that includes, Jackson Muschamp on his
Yep.
rush up the middle, and
Yep.
then, I mean, Colin Drake.
Lad.
Colin Drake's in here throwing passes
Right.
like it's unbelievable. I can't even fathom.
Yeah. It's wild, and that's the only fun part to me about these blowouts
Yeah,
like that is one. I mean, let's not get it twisted. And I know in your notes you're saying that we get a chance to see some of the young guys, and we did a little bit, by the way. The most exciting of those young guys we got to see in real action was Gunnar Stockton, but it's fun to see people like Colin Drake get in there.
yeah,
We got an offensive lineman to walk on Miles. What's Miles Johnson? That you see some guys like that they're just not going to see the field at Georgia. The walk-ons that have been programmed guys that work their tails off.
yeah,
They get to play in the Orange Bowl. Man, you know how cool that is for them. I mean, it's
for
really
sure.
cool. But yeah, it was fun to see some of these other cats get in there. It was fun to see Gunnar Stockton. I'll tell you on defense, man, just eyeball test. Troy Bowles, the linebacker cat that we got, looks good. I like that. I like him. So the linebackers are going to be good next year, man. Smile Munnon will be back. CJ Allen will be there. Then you got Troy Bowles, Damon Wilson. I mean, you got some guys in there that are those young bucks, a little bit of experience, going to be really good. So
Yeah,
it was fun to see that.
yeah. And then kind of to round out this takeaways from this game, I guess. Kendall Milton won the MVP.
Yep.
9 rushes for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
That's insane as well. I mean, he was getting everything that he wanted.
Once Kendall Milton finally figured out that if he goes straight and puts his pads on people, he's a problem.
Yeah,
He became a problem.
yeah,
Like we don't give out career most improved, but Kendall Milton was a guy that should get a lot of love for the amount of adversity he went through, how hard he worked. He caught a lot of flack from people on the outside, fans, people watching this show. Gave Kendall Milton a lot of flack this year. People love to use the term bust when it comes to guys that are rated highly, or especially 5-star guys if they aren't all Americans immediately. That word got thrown around some with Kendall Milton, and
Yeah.
it was injury. It was due to injury.
right.
So let's not cut this thing up and say that I said anything about Kendall Milton was a bust. I'm not saying that, but he was having to hear those whispers. So, man, I was so happy for that cat the second half of this season to just be the bell cow for the offense. I mean, he was the guy that stepped up as the man running the football, and I was really happy for that cat, a guy who's graduated, who's worked hard, who's fought through adversity, and who when the lights shine real bright at the end of the season, he came up big. So Kendall Milton, man, well deserved. Hope he has a long NFL career, but
About
yeah,
to say
well,
that,
he turned into a dude running the football.
and that game had to have immense impacts on his draft stock. I mean,
Yeah.
the performance that he had in winning MVP, like a guy who really couldn't stay healthy,
Yep.
and there's film on him, but it's not like he was injured for a lot of his career,
Yep.
so it's something that will definitely help him in his draft stock
Yep.
immensely.
And I
So
was super happy for Ladd, by the way,
Yeah.
to come back because Ladd's a guy this year that's been banged up some, and there couldn't have been a better play for him to go out on than the double pass where he just went back
Tucked
to
it
Pee Wee
and ran.
football,
Yeah.
made 10 guys missed, shaking another one out, went to the house on a run, and then
Yeah.
didn't get back in the game. So I was really happy for Ladd with that. That
Yeah.
one made me happy. So yeah.
Yeah. Final question here, kind of to round out the whole Orange Bowl situation. We'll get to some more questions here from you guys to finish the show. But what kind of statement do you think this sends? This win that Georgia did, does it send a statement to the College Football Playoff Committee? You said yourself that Georgia shouldn't have been in the College Football Playoff,
Yep.
but do you think that maybe it sent a message because a lot of people out there think that Georgia's still a top 4 team in the country?
And they are.
Yeah.
I think the message for them is they need to get their crap together with how they speak publicly on what they're letting into the college football playoff. Because when I say they shouldn't begin. By the way, I don't think Bama should have been in either. I think FSU should have been in, even though we absolutely trounced them.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that beatdown we just put on them doesn't change the fact that they should have been in the playoff.
Yeah.
They were undefeated Power 5 team. They were still ranked as a top 3 or 4 team when their quarterback got hurt. They won 2 games with Tate Rodemaker playing as their starting quarterback, and then they got moved down. So I'm talking about the Russ criteria here, and this is a little bit of historical stuff. Florida State should have been in. Bama should not have been in. Georgia should not have been in.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
You really think Texas over? I guess they would have to be in.
They
if
beat
you-
Bama head to head.
Right.
If
My thing is that was so early on
They
in
beat
the
Bama head to
season.
head.
It's just so
They
early.
beat Bama head to head.
All right. I hear you.
Do you hear what I said?
I hear
They
you.
beat them head to head.
I know.
It's got to count. If you win your conference, you had 3 other Power 5 undefeated teams. Your last 2 were one-loss conference champions that played each other. So in my mind, that's what it should have happened.
Okay.
Now the college football playoff committee got in trouble was saying we're putting the best 4 teams in. If that's the criteria and you're not putting Georgia in, you're a joke.
Yeah. That's
You're a
separate
joke.
Conversation. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It is.
If you're putting the best 4 teams in at the end of the year, it would have been Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, probably Washington.
Yeah. I think Washington has to be in there.
I mean, Texas, it was in the conversation for best in the year. I think Washington would have got that nod because of Michael Penix, who balled out, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the playoff committee got off track, where they've got to fix their stuff next year.
Yeah.
They got to fix how they message publicly. They need to go to they need to hire a PR firm, just like JJ McCarthy does. Don't come out and say we still sign. Learn what you're supposed to say and get your crap together when you speak publicly about how you're ranking teams in the playoff. Don't say things like we're putting the best 4 teams in, then leave Georgia out. So the message Georgia sent the last couple of years is we're going to be serious when it comes to playoff game to the postseason. We're going to be prepared. If you don't put a really good team against us, we're going to beat the absolute crap out of them. And they have the last 2 years.
Yeah. And that was 7 straight bowl game wins for Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. So the last loss coming was it 2018 against Texas?
I think so.
Yeah, 2018 against Texas. So
there you go.
That was the last loss. But yeah, I think that's a perfect segue into this question we have about the 12-team playoff. How do you feel about switching to a 12-team playoff?
I'm excited about it going into next year. I mean, because it's different. I think we all recognize that the current system is broken, and it has been broken for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's had to evolve over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, the only reason Georgia Tech has a national championship because the system was so broken, they got voted as a co-champion with Colorado in like the early 90s. That doesn't count. So, I mean, you can't have crap like that to where teams aren't even playing for anything and getting voted, deciding who the champ is. That doesn't work. And then, went down to the BCS era, and then we went to what we're in now, the playoff era. And the problem is you're making it all subjective. You're making it all one dude's opinion versus another.
Yeah.
You're making it all people behind the boardroom having a conversation and making one guy the sacrificial lamb having to explain to the world what the committee is deciding. And that just doesn't work for 3 or 4 teams. Now with 12, there's always going to be grumbling and complaining about the last 3 or 4 spots. But I don't feel like you're going to get outside the top 7 or 8 and have anybody's going to win the college football playoff.
Yeah, I've been saying you're going to be debating a 3-loss LSU and a 3-loss Louisville, and like at that point, those respective fan bases are going to be probably a little bit upset.
Yep.
But when you get that deep into it, it's all like,
And you're gonna
I don't know.
it. It's funny to me the kind of the group of five, the Liberties of the world. By the way, they want to, which they got absolutely smoked by Oregon, but they want to say
Yeah.
things like, "Well, it gives us a shot now." No, it doesn't. You now got to win 3 games against big boy schools. This ain't basketball, dog.
Yeah.
Steph Curry can't get hot and start hitting threes and dot everybody's eyes out there. You can't get Wally Pipp on the quarterback situation. I had no idea about Wally Pipp. I knew he got hurt and got out. So I don't. I'm excited about it. I think it takes a lot of this crap we're talking about right here out of. I just hope they can define a little bit about who gets in and not make it again just totally subjective with it.
Yep.
I think if you look at it this year, there were 7, 8, maybe 9 teams that were pretty clear. And outside of that, you had 3 or 4 that were in the conversation. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a new era of college football I'm excited about. Everything else is changing in college football. That needs to as well.
Yeah. Definitely going to be interesting with the 12-team playoff. I have no idea how it's going to work out with bowl games, especially because at what does this make bowl games less important?
No.
Or I think it keeps the elite bowl games elite, I will say. However, do you think that this is gonna I don't know. I can't I'll need to see what happens, but like, some of those less the Pop-Tart Bowl or the Cheez-It Bowl, like some of those
Mhm.
bowl games, like I think do they become more important, less important? How do you think that the 12-team playoff is gonna have effect on that?
I, I mean, I don't think it has a huge impact at the end of the day because does the Gasparilla Bowl really matter?
To Tech fans.
Okay. But it's a reward for the player. I wasn't trying to take a shot at Tech. I didn't know who played in the Gasparilla Bowl.
No, they played in the
Did they?
Gasparilla Bowl.
Okay. Well, it worked.
Yeah.
It worked for the show. It's a reward for the players, and bowl games are fun, man.
Yeah.
Like the bowl games that Georgia's been in. Now, don't get me wrong. I would not trade it because I would love to be playing for the national championship. But one of the most fun we had in college was on like the Outback Bowl, the Capital One Bowl. Games that didn't really matter at the end of the day. You got to enjoy just an awesome week on the bowls, having a lot of fun with your guys, being on location somewhere. There's a lot of fun stuff with it. So I think it'll make some of those bowls fun. Maybe they can turn those bowls into a little like mini NIT tournament like they do in basketball.
Yeah.
Like get a second. I don't know. Maybe there's something with that to incentivize players and have a champ for that gets paid something. But I don't think it's going to lessen the impact of those bowls. I think the big bowls are still going to be super important. They're still going to call all the playoff games a certain bowl. So, I think we're going to look back at it. Man, we should have gone to the playoff a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be beneficial for sure. Do you think 12 is too much or you think it's adequate? You
I
think
think it's adequate.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's adequate because you're already adding, 3 games for some teams in there, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
what it turns into?
Yes,
3 or
because
4
it's
games.
one game that's not a bowl game at the guys who aren't exempt, what is it?
Mhm.
The top 4, I think, are exempt. They get a bye week or
Right.
whatever. Um, and there's a week of non-bowl games that are playoff games,
Yep.
and then the next week is playoff, and then it's the semifinals, quarterfinal? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
math. I'm not there right now.
Quarter
So,
semifinals.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, you just can't go to a 32 team, 64 team. You just can't do that in football.
Yep.
Because one, it doesn't make sense. You don't have a chance. Basketball's different. You got 5 guys on the field, 1 or 2 guys get hot, get right. You can make a run. That doesn't happen in football. You ain't making a 3-game run in football against better teams.
Yeah.
It's just too physical. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think 12's right.
Okay. You would prefer 8?
I was actually going to say 8 would be fine with me, but they just open themselves up to more criticism if they say 8. But I think it made sense before conference
Yeah.
expansion to do 8. You could have the 5 Power 5 champs and 3 wild cards. But
Are you looking forward to guys joining the Big Ten?
no, I think it's dumb.
But if Oregon goes, I think it's dumb too. But there's nothing more that I would like to see
Yeah.
than Oregon to join the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And for them to expose the Big Ten as
Yeah.
just I mean, you talk about the Big Ten. It's what, 2 mules fighting over a turnip?
Good job.
It's slow. Thank you. I listen.
Yeah, 2 much fighting return route.
Yeah. So it's slow, and I think, an Oregon coming in, do you think that
Yeah.
that exposes that a little bit? Like, there's nothing that I would like to see more than for Oregon to join that conference and just demolish
Yeah,
everybody.
they're not gonna demolish everybody. They'll beat some of the lower end teams, but they're gonna have hard times playing.
They
Um,
got good defenses in the Big Ten, but
they do.
their
They're gonna
offense is Oregon's offense. I would take Oregon's offense over just
yeah.
about anybody in the
It
Big
it
Ten.
it it gives the home team a much larger advantage, by the way. You think about USC having to play Penn State. That's a lot of travel
Yeah.
to whichever team is going. You got different time zones that make a difference for your preparation
Yeah.
when you get there. The thing. This is another. I'll just say this, and we can move on from it. I get it. Football money. That's what drives it. But the thing that's going to absolutely stink, by the way, is for every sport that's not football. It's going to absolutely
Yeah.
stink
That's fair.
for softball,
Yeah.
for the volleyball teams, or
Oh,
the
are we sure that they're all, because I'm pretty sure there's I forget I saw something. Here I go again saying I saw something somewhere, and I'm being super vague about it because I literally have no idea on the spot here,
yeah.
a host of a live show. I saw something somewhere about certain sports are gonna stay in that division or their
I hope
conference.
they need to figure something like that out.
Yeah.
They're going to have to because you can't have the tennis team traveling cross country for a matchup there. But anyways, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
NCAA is going to die in the next few years.
Yeah.
Where they have to be radically revamped.
Let's see here.
Yeah, hit some comments, man. We got about
We got
5 or 10 minutes left. What you
Brad
got?
Newsome playoff should be 6 teams.
6. 6 is tough. I think we're gonna go.
I think 6 is tough too.
Yeah, I think you could say 8. I think 8 would be the number. 8 to 12, I do think it's right. I would probably say 8 if it was just me, but I get it with 12.
We got this question from Andy Huckabee. You may have already answered this question, but what do you think can be done or needs to be done with the transfer portal and opt-out issues?
Yeah, I mean opt-out issues. I mean they're going to have to figure out a way to incentivize the guys to play.
Yeah.
In these games that don't matter. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
But they still, I hate you saying that because like these games still do matter. Like I understand where you're coming from, and everybody's like, I think people need to have a better appreciation
it
for
matters.
these
Look,
games.
look.
It,
It matters to me.
yeah,
But from that, I'm saying from the standpoint, it doesn't matter as far as the national championship picture. Let
yeah,
me clarify that.
that's fair.
Okay, so because I do think they matter. I think that every sport you play matters. I actually heard. I was listening to one of the local sports stations this morning, and what's the guy that does Dog Nation? Brandon Adams. He said something on there that I thought was a good give him a hat tip. That was right. He said, "Man, somebody's got to step back up and say that college football is an amateur sport.
Yeah,
That was what it was designed to be. That's what it's supposed to be, and we need to fix that.
become a business.
It's become too much of a business. It's
Right.
minor league. It's minor league football.
Yeah.
So that's got. I don't know what the answer is to that. Maybe we need to have a poll or a forum one day and letting some of our people on here discuss it, especially for the opt outs. The transfer portal stuff. The hard thing for the transfer portal to me is now the window of time when these guys have for early signing period, and then the transfer portal and all that because it's too rushed. And you talk about cheating. We're talking about Michigan cheating. Sheesh. The transfer portal is where the most cheating goes on of anywhere. And nobody says anything. Nobody gets turned in.
Right.
Like I saw on the Dogs event last night or the Vault one. I can't remember if it was the Dog event or the Vault, one of the UGA sports website, the message boards with Julian Humphrey, the guy who's saying he's going in the portal for Georgia, who's not coming back. Glad he's coming back. But somebody was talking about last night that he'd been contacted by Texas A&M and was leaving to go to Texas A&M. He hadn't entered the portal.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be able to have conversations with it. It's
Right.
literally tampering.
Yeah.
So the professional sports leagues have tampering rules. Where if you go and start talking to a free agent or somebody on a team,
And they actually enforce those
and
rules.
they enforce those rules, Michigan is literally admitting to sign stealing and cheating, and nothing's going to happen.
No.
So they've got to figure that part out as far as the timing of the transfer portal because it is leading to illegal stuff. It's leading to money being thrown around. It's leading to people having to make huge life decisions when you're a 19, 20-year-old kid that's having money thrown at you from people that are pulling at you, some in your corner, some not, trying to make you make a life-changing decision. And guess what? You got 24 hours to do it.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's not right with that. So, they need to figure out a different way to do the windows of it. The NCAA has just, opened up Pandora's box, said anything goes, and that's not good.
No, not at all. We've got this comment from Wildman Slayer. If you're taking NIL money, you should have to play. I have an issue. I have no issue with this,
Sure.
but I also do have an issue with it.
Okay.
We talk about how we need to make this more of an amateur sport again. But at this point,
Right.
if they're taking NIL money, they're on a contract. This is not amateurism anymore.
Right.
This is like you said, minor league football.
Yeah.
So this does not bring us backwards anymore. It progresses not necessarily in a good way about contracts, and if they're taking NIL money, they have to play. But I don't know if there's another solution. I mean,
That may be the solution, by the
yeah,
way, right the way. Not to say that because I don't think you say you have to play. So I don't think I think that Mr. Slayer there is Wild Man Slayer. I hope that's his real name. That would be amazing. um, and if so, I love his parents. What was I talking about?
got
Sports, yeah, money,
talking about
yeah.
NIL money, happy to
So
play.
so right now, the crazy thing about the NIL, the way it's written, one of the few rules about NIL is you can't tie it to performance or on field stuff. I mean, it has to be these players get that money once they sign up with it. That's kind of the way it's written up. So, I think that you could have some of your NIL people. I don't know. That gets slippery too, though, because then they're going to say, "I don't want you playing this game because I want you healthy for that game." So I don't know. Dang, I thought I had a solution. Then I talked myself out of it real
Yeah,
quick. But I mean, maybe the NIL stuff about how having them showing up at certain games, incentives or bonus for that, it gets back to paying them because once you start paying it, man, once you open it up and make it all about money, then the amount of people that are all about money only increases.
right.
And money is not a solver of many things in life. It helps in situation, but it doesn't solve anything.
Yeah,
It can buy you a sandwich, but it doesn't teach you how to grow your own food. I
no,
mean, money is an evil, right? Or it can be. I guess the love of money is. So it's driving football in the wrong direction. And until somebody figures out a way to regulate in a way that makes sense, and I'm not a big regulation guy. I'm a free market capitalist. God bless America. Like this is not a communist situation over here.
yeah,
But they got to figure something out to make it fair, to make it right.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Well, Russ, we're a little bit over our time here, but you got any? This is the hogs portion of
Hogs.
this. Did we get to taste any barbecue this past week? Did you go anywhere?
No, we
No?
did not. Drove to a place that was closed.
Oof.
So that's all right. We're
Alright,
getting back on the ball next week.
alright, cool.
We'll be
Well,
back.
that wraps this show up here. We didn't have to go too far over here.
That was a quick last
Yeah,
segment.
there we go. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave comments and tune back in next week for more Dogs and Hogs. Hopefully, Russ will have some hogs to talk about next week. But thank you guys for tuning in, and Russ, as always,
Don't get Wally pipped and go dogs.
go Dogs.